Hey folks, don't panic. I have not started a video game channel and this is still POV CNC. This time I wanted to talk a little bit about a method I sometimes use to get design ideas into Carbide Create. But first we need to have a little background. I've been playing a lot of this video game called No Man's Sky. It's a massive game with a universe comprised of 255 unique galaxies containing 18 quintillion planets. Even with 1 million users, it's unlikely we will ever come close to fully exploring the space of this game in our lifetimes. Each planet has its own weather, plants, critters, terrain, everything. Pretty cool, right? Anywho, I wanted to bring some of the mystery of the game into my own world, and so I decided I would build something called an atlas marker. The atlas marker is essentially a tombstone, but it shows up in the iconography of the game in a number of ways. It's a relatively simple shape, but I wanted to get the proportions right, and I wasn't also 100% certain how I was going to use the design when I was finished. I just wanted to kind of capture the basic outlines of it and see where that might lead me. So all of this starts with a simple screenshot. Now that I have my starting point, we can move back into the familiar world of Carbide Create. Okay, now that we're back in slightly less alien territory, I want to make some changes to my document setup. I've currently got this as about an 8x8 document that'll just kind of give me a size to work to. What I really want to do here is set a document background. This will let us select our screenshot and save it as a sort of faded background on this image. So our screenshot is in here. Okay, and you notice this is incredibly huge. So I'm going to zoom out so we can see that's our whole image. And I need to do a combination of things. I need to move this into the center, and I need to shrink it down so that it fits. And this is not the most intuitive process. If you want to move the background image, you click this, move background image, click part of the image, and then click where you want it to show up in your canvas. So now you notice I've got things too large still. So I'm going to set this to around 0.7. You notice that it shrunk it, but it also moved it again. So now I've got to kind of move things back. And it's kind of a trial and error like this, which I'm not really thrilled about, but you can get it there eventually. So I'm going to drop this a little bit further, 6.5. We're going to move our background again. I'm going to put this right about there. Yeah, that looks like that's centered. So one more thing before I get out of this area, the document background. I need to adjust my grid spacing. These are right now set on about 1/8 of an inch. I want a slightly smaller one. I'd like to end up with 1/8 of an inch between these lines, and it will be easier to do that, I think, if I drop this down to about 1/16. So I'm going to go 0.64 and drop those down. That'll give me a little bit more precision when I'm doing my drawing. Okay and okay. So now that we have things set up, we should be ready for our trace. There's two tools we're going to use for most of this. The first one is called a Polyline Tool. It's this one right here. What this one does is it draws straight lines between your clicks. Click, 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 click. And then double click to close. So now I have a shape here that I can use for creating tool paths. So that's a good one to start with. I'm going to delete that. The other tool is this curves tool. And what this allows you to do is click a start point and then click and hold on an end point and drag. And you can create a curve that way that follows your shape. So see, I've got the curve of his helmet now, and if I let go, I can click done, and I've got just this little curved piece of his helmet. This is what's called a Bezier curve, and it uses dark sorcery with which I'm not terribly familiar, For more information, you should probably summon a graphic designer. That's not going to be me. Fortunately for me and for you, this particular drawing is only really going to take straight lines, so I don't really have to worry too much about the curves tool. But look for Bezier curves if you're interested in doing something with that. So I've deleted that. I'm going to go back and reset my view again. So now all we have to do is grab our Polyline tool, and we're going to click top, click, click, and click, and double click. Okay, cool. So now we've got our outer design here. Now, one thing you may notice is because I took this image at an angle, that these 2 points do not line up, nor do these, top and bottom. So I want to get them symmetrical now that I've got this close to the way I want it. So what I want to do next is create a temporary shape that I'm going to use to kind of guide me here. So I'm going to take from this edge where I know this is, and I'm going to draw out a nice long line. All right. So that's locked onto this node essentially. And now I can take this and click on it and use this edit node tool. You notice now I've got little boxes on each one of my points that I clicked on, and I can grab them and drag them up. So now that means that these two are now on the same plane. Now I want to take this piece again, click on it, and I'm just going to turn it 90 degrees. Okay, and now I can drag it around and use it to line up my other end. So line it up on that top one, and then select this, grab my bottom one, and move it over. And that should give me a more precise shape. So next I want to get these little inner panels that are here into individual pieces. So I'm going to take my Polyline tool again. I'm going to click there. I kind of like these to be straight down. And again, I don't have to get these 100% accurate the first time, because I'm going to adjust them later on. So you notice right now, let's see, that looks like about the same thickness. And this needs to come up a little. See, it's not quite aligned with my other piece. And come out 1, 2. There, that looks like a uniform thickness to me. Let's copy it. Okay, and flip it and put it over here, and that's going to give me an idea of whether or not I've got any kind of symmetry issues. So 2 squares is going to be about 1/8 of an inch apart, which tells me I need to take this guy. I'm going to use my node editor, and I'm going to drag him over, keep him in that same plane, but like that. And that should give me enough symmetry to work with from there. So I want to get these 2 bottom panels, and to do this, I'm actually, because my design has strayed a little bit from this, I'm going to turn it off for right now. So I want to go back in here, and I'm going to edit my background, and I'm just going to click show and turn that off. Okay, so now I've got my basic pieces here, and I sort of know where those panels are going. So I can click my Polyline tool again. I'm going to come down just slightly, go out until it matches that one, drop down, and I'm going to get this close. Again, I'm not going to be exact, I know that. And there. There. Okay. So that's got that. And if I want those to be about 1/8 of an inch apart, that's 2 squares. So I've got that now. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to flip it and see whether or not we've got good alignment there. That's actually looking pretty good. And it's easier if you grab the node ends right here and snap them down to that grid. That's going to give you a better alignment each time. And that looks like I've got those pretty symmetrical. I'll go with that. The last thing I want to do is that circular piece in the middle. So we'll go ahead and turn our background back on. Tell it show, just so that I get the proportions and sort of the positioning correct. And now I can grab my circle tool, click, and get that the basic size that I want. Okay, I'm going to unselect. I'm going to turn this back off again. Okay, now I want him centered on the overall pattern. So let's center him from side to side. And do that. Okay, so that puts him pretty much in the center. So now that I have the shapes that I want, I can save this file, but the other thing that I can do that's really nice is I can save this and export it as an SVG file, and SVG files can be imported back into Carbide Create and other programs, or they could be taken over into something like vCarve and worked on there. So it gives you a couple of options for saving things. You can use this kind of a technique, this tracing technique, to gather shapes and ideas from photos or bring little bits of real life into your CNC work, or you can bring a little bit of magic from a favorite video game in. Either way, it's a useful technique for getting designs into Carbide Create. Hopefully you come up with a couple of cool things and you'll show them off here. I'd love to see them. And hopefully I'll see you again sometime soon.